WarioWare Get It Together continues the trend of creating a fun and entertaining collection of microgames to play alone or with friends. In true WarioWare fashion, the chaos leads to some laughable moments with a much greater focus on gameplay variety over console-specific gimmicks like previous entries did. Game developer Wario is back at it again with his newest game console scheme, a collection of microgames he can cash in for a quick buck. Unfortunately for him, a series of game-breaking bugs appear, with the only way to patch them out being to jump into the games themselves. Interestingly enough, this also means we get to play as Wario along with the cast of series friends you'll recognize from prior entries. While the story won't wow you by any means, it does provide a nice explanation for the microgames and why the twist in the gameplay plays out slightly differently with this Nintendo Switch entry. The entire thing can be beaten in about 2 hours with some in-text dialogue and cinematic cutscenes sprinkled in between as transition pieces between the sectioned off areas. While I certainly didn't go into this game for its story, I found it surprisingly pleasant. Now, being able to be played either solo or with friends, WarioWare's collection of microgames are sure to take you on quite a chaotic adventure. All in the span of a few seconds, you'll be given a phrase that's supposed to explain the game's objective, with the remaining few seconds left for you to actually complete the game. You'll no doubt have to repeat games a few times to understand the objective, and even then you might still struggle to complete them. That all comes with Nintendo's decision to avoid adding a console-specific themed gimmick for gameplay, and instead focus on creating a variety of different moves for different characters. The result is some welcome diversity to the gameplay, but at the cost of some characters feeling unviable for certain games. You see, in previous WarioWare games, the games would revolve around the console gimmick it's on. Motion controls for Wii, the camera for the DSi, but for the Switch, there is nothing like that. Instead, each character has a completely different action that changes them from the other characters, some more than others. It at times feels like Nintendo took a bit of a stretch with the creativity here, because there's plenty of clone movesets that feel like slightly worse versions of other characters. These wouldn't really be so much of an issue if the story mode didn't force you to at least play as one of the new characters for each of the new chapters. Having the ability to play co-op story mode does make things a little bit better, but only slightly, as the actual microgames don't feel like they were designed for co-op. When playing solo though, the microgames provide a fun adrenaline rush that, in conjunction with the quick turnaround for these games, led to some addicting runs for the highest score. One of the more notable additions were the Nintendo classics that were reworked as microgames, which were incredibly charming. Now, outside of the story mode, there's also a multiplayer mode that, like the co-op and story mode, feels a bit forced. Called the Variety Pack, this selection of 10 different game modes offers a variety of different games from head-to-head to co-op. Outside of the PvP games, everything else sort of felt poorly designed for multiplayer, and that rush for a high score against your friends quickly died out. PvP also slightly suffers from the fact that you can't select your character. Instead, they're randomized, and when some characters are significantly worse versions of others, it can kinda kill the mood pretty quickly. The story mode is still the main attraction here that can actively be replayed for a higher score. There's even a dedicated Wario Cup mode where you can compete in weekly challenges with a fully integrated online leaderboard. There's always been this sort of wacky, weird, and generally really out there presentation when it came to the microgames, and this entry is no different. From the overly exaggerated facial expressions of the background art to the just oddity of pulling out armpit hairs as a microgame, there's always a lot of creativity on display here. There have been a few upgrades. For example, the character models have been upgraded to actual 3D models as opposed to the sprite-based ones from previous games. In practice, they look great. They feel much more fluid. That goes as far with the level design too, where 3D models look on par with the unusually realistic but beautiful food models in Pikmin 3. Cutscenes were well animated as well, with a mix of 3D and 2D that looks like something you'd see out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Performance on the Switch is solid too. You can expect a 1080p 60 frames per second in dock mode and 720p 60 in handheld mode. I didn't really notice any performance dips when playing. Playing in handheld mode, for example, the visuals came out sharp, so if you want to play solely on the Nintendo Switch, I think it's a viable option. WarioWare Get It Together features a pretty funky soundtrack. Because of the wide variety of microgames across various settings and themes, there's a lot of different types of songs from rock, techno, folk, and more. There's some pretty great bits here that oftentimes left me wanting a full song out of them that actually wouldn't be a bad My Nintendo physical reward. Regardless, the pieces we do get are great, along with some good voice work to go alongside it. WarioWare Get It Together is a fun collection of microgames that add up to some well-welcome variety in the gameplay. Unfortunately, not all of the changes are for the better, as the large cast of characters also feels like they might be spread a bit too thin. Some of the changes coming off more shallow for the sake of a larger amount of playable characters. The multiplayer mode feels like it could have been a bit better executed, with the randomized character selector throwing a major wrench in the fun to be had. Nevertheless, the story mode is the real attraction of the game and is some of the best party game fun to be released on the console this year. I just wish the rest of the package were equally as good.